Hi everyone, I'm Kristen, the cross stitching runner, and welcome to my channel. I want to say a big hello and welcome to all new and returning subscribers, and if by chance you've stumbled across this channel, this one is all about cross stitch with a bit of life stuff thrown into it. Before I really kick into this episode, I also want to acknowledge that this episode is being recorded on the land, owned, so to speak, or taken care of by the Ngunnawal people. So I'm coming here from Canberra, Australia, and just acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of the land on which this particular episode is being recorded. So I just want to say thank you all for clicking on this particular episode and checking out what's going on. I feel like a lot of stitching has definitely been happening since we last caught up, and the sad thing is that I've actually had to go back to work. I had a couple of weeks off work, and some of that was because I was unwell and some of it was planned leave, and it was nice being able to sit down and get a lot of stitching in, catch up on some of the stitching that was just starting to sneak away from me. And this is where I'm going to be sharing a lot of what I have stitched with you today. So the first project that I want to share with you is one that I've been intermittently stitching on and is slowly coming back onto my stitching rotation because of a challenge that I have been setting myself for quite a few months. It's all connected to the Australian Football League, or the AFL, and some of the projects that I have been working on in connection to some of the teams that are part of the league. I finished those projects, and so I now have this free choice space. So the first project that has started coming back into rotation is called the Blue Mountains Walking Trail, and this is a hot cross stitching design, and it's available on the hot cross stitching website. It's a full coverage project, and it's based upon a photo that I took a few years ago up at a place called the Blue Mountains in New South Wales. And this being a full coverage project is also fully compatible with Pattern Keeper, and now that I've been using Pattern Keeper, I really don't want to go back to full coverage projects and use a paper-based pattern, because it has just made my life so much easier with being able to quickly keep track of what symbols are connected to what threads I'm using. Additionally, I am using all DMC threads for this project, and it is very much a slow in progress. This is going to be very much a labour of love because of how big this project is going to be. So the stitch area is about 560 stitches high by 374 stitches wide. So this is where I'm at the moment, and because I've been able to start filling in quite a few spaces that are down in this area here, there we go, down in that area there, I really feel like I'm able to start seeing some of this dark fern that's reaching across the page. So just as a comparison, that's the photo. So I guess up near the top left, or up near the top where you see some of the blue sky, just under the hot cross stitching logo, that's where I'm stitching at the moment. And I'm stitching this on an easy count, even weave type of gridded fabric. It's gridded up 20 by 20, and I guess because we stitch in 10 by 10 type of blocks, it's not as easy to be able to do that extreme cross-country style of stitching. I'm a very much a cross-country stitcher, and I think if I get too extreme with my cross-country style of stitching, my counting gets really out of balance. So I absolutely admire everyone who does that extreme cross country, and I'm not really able to say how many stitches I've been able to put into this project since we last caught up, because it's been quite intermittent since we caught up. But my aim has been, I'll just bring this in a bit, my aim has been to try and square up some of the stitching, so that way it does make it a bit easier for me to keep track of where I'm stitching and what's going on. The other thing with this project, especially with the close-up, you may have noticed that in the top corner where I started stitching, I guess the texture of the stitches was looking perhaps a little bit different, and in my headspace I'd started off stitching 2 threads over 1 fabric square, and it was just getting too thick and too bulky. So I've eased out of that particular square just to do the 1 thread over 1 fabric square, and it's coming up a treat. It's doing really, really well. So the next project that I have to share with you again is one of my free choice or free Squarespace projects, and I've potentially touched on this project in my earlier episode because, or even a couple of episodes ago, because I've reached 50% or just over 50% on this project. And this particular project is the pink Bottlebrush mini. It's another hot cross stitching design that's based upon a photo that I've taken, and it's available on the hot cross stitching website, and it's using all DMC threads, and it's got a stitch area of 100 by 128 stitches. And if I haven't quite figured out what this is in as far as inches are concerned, but as far as centimeters are concerned, 10 centimeters by 13 sounds really tiny. So I think I've gotten the measurements a bit out of balance on that one. But with this particular project, it does initially suggest 40 count black even weave, but I'm stitching this particular project on 18 count Aida, and you've got ample amount of fabric, and I think it's coming up a treat as well. So it has been charted to be stitched on black fabric, and one of the interesting things when I had posted my progress on the Full Coverage Phonetics website, just to say, like, hey, I'm really excited about this progress. One of the things that I found interesting is how some people can interpret, I guess, a cover photo for a project. So to help put into perspective, I had posted this particular cover page with the progress, and also just showing a snippet of the I guess stitch count for the pink Bottlebrush mini, to show that it's over the 50% mark. And there was someone who was concerned that it wasn't a full coverage project, and that I wasn't stitching the background, and that I was stitching it on black fabric to get out of stitching the black background. And I didn't state that I was the designer, so I know that everything's all good, but I had definitely said, look, hey, thank you for giving me the heads up, and that it is definitely being stitched as charted, and that it has been charted to be stitched on black fabric. So yeah, I guess it's just something that I'm keeping in mind as well for how I design my projects, and also bearing in mind that everyone has just a slightly different perspective of how the projects are interpreted, and different views. I feel like my head was going somewhere. I haven't quite figured out what point I was trying to make there, but everything's all good and kosher. I've reached 50% on Pink Bottlebrush Mini, and I'm also using it on Pattern Keeper, using all DMC threads, stitching 2 threads over 1 fabric square, and 99% of the project is compatible with Pattern Keeper. The one quirky thing is that there's just one colour out of the entire list of threads that are connected to the project where the symbol appears on Pattern Keeper, but when I go to then select that particular thread, nothing happens. It doesn't matter if I select the symbol on the special digital chart, or if I select it from the list of flosses charted. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So it just doesn't come up with what the DMC thread number is in terms of being able to highlight it and say that I've stitched it. So it's just a quirky thing. It's okay. It's probably more to do with the pattern than it is Pattern Keeper itself. So it's okay, and it's easy enough for me to be able to easily pick going which one I need to actually stitch. So the next project that I have to share with you is actually part of the AFL footy challenge that I've set for myself with stitching. So this particular project is called A Dictionary of Dogs. It's a Bothy Threads kit. So this particular project I'd started many moons ago, set it aside because I'd lost interest in it, and I've picked it back up again to stitch for my boyfriend, but also attribute this particular project to a team called the Western Bulldogs, and they've actually been doing reasonably well with the footy. And so what I've been focusing is on this very, very light yellow that we see at the top of the project here, and it's just more because it's easy for me to count the stitches rather than anything else. So with the Western Bulldogs, they won, what did they win? They won what did they win? They won their game in round 19, and their final score was 110 points. So I then put 110 stitches into A Dictionary of Dogs. And that's my line of thinking with majority of the projects that you're about to see, that the team who has won their game, I take the final score for that winning team and put that amount of stitches into the project that I've assigned or connected to that particular team for different reasons. So the next project I have to share with you is a hot cross stitching design. It's called Black and White Rolled Up Daisy. So again, this one is based upon a photo that I've taken. This particular project is available on the Hot Cross Stitching website, and it's fully compatible with Pattern Keeper. And I'm stitching this particular project on 18 count Black Ada, and it's got a measurement of it sounds big, but I think with it being stitched on 18 count Ada, it's probably going to be a lot smaller. So it's got 271 by 236 stitches. So this is where I'm at the moment, and I'm very much biased, but I reckon it's looking pretty good. And I've put I've actually put a heap of stitching in it, probably more than what the initial designated amounts have been because of the teams who have won and such. So I've got 2 teams connected to this project. I've got the Collingwood Magpies because the team colours are black and white, and the magpie here in Australia is a black and white bird. So in round 20, which is the weekend that we're in right now for the AFL fixture, this is a weekend in progress. So today, right now, we've got we've got at least one football team or one football game playing right now, and the team who is going to win is most likely going to be a team called the Gold Coast Suns, and they're one of my free choice teams because of some projects that I've finished in connection to that team. So I'm going to be able to show you another project that I'll probably put a bit of time into because of the Gold Coast Suns winning their game, but it's also one of these projects that's still sparkly and shiny new and exciting because it's a new project that I've started. So getting back to this particular project, in round 20 I've put 88 stitches in this because of Collingwood winning their game, and then I've put another 84 stitches into this as a bare minimum because of the Adelaide Crows winning their game. So here in Australia, the bird called the crow is just a fully black bird, and again, with this being stitched on black fabric and it being a black and white photo, yeah, it's all cool. I probably could have stitched or put some time into my next project called 12 Days of Christmas because it has some birds in it, and crows are a bird. Magpies are a bird as well, but I just really want to get some work done on on this project, and yeah, it's coming up an absolute treat. So ideally, if all goes well, I'd love to get that project done by the end of next year. Whether or not that happens, we'll have to wait and see. So I think even though I've put I've put well and truly over 160 stitches, quite potentially 200 stitches into the black and white rolled up daisy, just because of the stitching that's happened just within round 20. In even last weekend, in round 19, I was still able to put a minimum of 80 stitches into that project. So the next one I have to share with you, I've mentioned 12 Days of Christmas. This particular pattern is from the Ultimate Cross Stitch Christmas magazine, and this particular edition is volume 19 from the year 2018, and 12 Days of Christmas is designed by Rhona Norrie, and I'm stitching this relatively closely to the I guess requirements of the specifics for the chart. So this is what it will look like when it's done. My difference is that I'm not stitching it on navy blue fabric, and I think it looks absolutely stunning on the navy blue fabric. My decision to not put it on the navy blue fabric was more to do with me not having navy blue fabric at the time in my stash or large enough fabric. So this is where I'm at right now, and I've been putting a significant amount of work in the bottom of the project. So down here where you see the number 12 and the number 11, you can see that we've got some horns have been finished off, and I'm just starting to work on the top of the drums. So with this particular project, I've got quite a few teams connected to this. The two key teams that have actually been doing really well in the AFL fixture this year is Sydney Swans, and this one's hopefully pretty easy to tell. We've got swans here in 12 Days of Christmas, and I'm also assigning the team the St Kilda Saints to 12 Days of Christmas as well. My logic has been that the Saints I attribute to a variety of religions, mostly Christianity, and they have saints in some of those religions as part of what they do. So this being a Christmas themed religious type of or religious-ish kind of project, it's Christmas anyway. That's the main thing. That's why this project has gotten so much love since the month of March, when the AFL fixture season really kicked off. So to help put things into perspective, I've got my notes right down here, so my apologies for continuously looking down. So in this particular weekend so far, I probably won't be putting too much more work into it for this weekend. I've put 112 stitches into 12 Days of Christmas because of the Swans winning their game. And then the Saints won their game this weekend and they scored a total of 75 points. And last weekend, I put 90 stitches in and 118. So that's still a fair bit of stitching. And what I'm liking now is that I'm finally squaring things off a bit rather than just doing the cross-country stitching, because initially with this project, when I was doing the cross-country stitching and trying to count how many stitches I needed to do as a bare minimum, it was just getting too hard. I was getting annoyed. I didn't want to work on it. And now that I'm squaring things off and stitching it in the 10 by 10 blocks in, especially with these scores that you've just heard, it's making life so much easier. So the next project that I have to share with you is becoming one of my favorites, and what I'm super excited about is that I'm not the only one who's going to be stitching this. Hopefully the two people who have downloaded this pattern so far have made a start on the project, and if either of those people are watching right now, I would love to see your progress. I'm super excited that you've seen value in this next project and that you want to stitch it. So this particular pattern it's a free pattern that I uploaded recently to the Hot Cross Stitching website, and it's called I Count My Lucky Stars. And in one of my earlier episodes, you'll actually be able to hear a bit more about the background to this particular free chart. And the wonderful thing is that also in my previous episodes, I've actually made some improvements to the pattern as well to make it easier for it to be imported to the Pattern Keeper app and make it easier for stitching. So go and check out those particular episodes, and if you like what you see, hey, please go and download the pattern, and I would love to see your progress as well, because to me it's just exciting as a designer that there are people out there who like the work I've done enough to then choose to either purchase a pattern or download any of the free ones. So thank you. So without further ado, this is what I've stitched so far. It looks like a bit like a drop in the ocean at the moment. I'm stitching this on 28, or I'm assuming it's 28 count linen. When I purchased this fabric, it just said cashel linen, and so I'm assuming that this is 28 count linen, and this is being stitched as 1/1, so 1 thread over 1 fabric square. And the variegated thread that I'm using at the moment is this Water Lilies thread that I've had in my collection for quite a while now. I purchased this from my local needle and my L&S store. So this is called Water Lilies, it's the brand name Water Lilies by Karen, I'm assuming, Caron, and it's called Tequila Sunrise. So they're the details just there. So yeah, I've I don't often stitch with silks. So this is a 12 ply silk. It's 6 yards, which equates to about 5.5 meters. And yeah, it just feels so nice and soft. It feels really nice, and I've really been enjoying working on this project as one of my free choice projects because of how certain teams are going in the AFL. So yeah, this is going to be really cool. And the aim of this particular chart, with it being I guess charted in black, is to enable you to use whatever colours you want, use whatever fabric you want. You'll see in my last episode that I did initially choose a different fabric and a different thread, and things didn't quite go the way I was hoping, so go and check it out. My aim with this particular project is, with the border that we see around here, my aim is to actually stitch the, I guess you can almost see we've got 2 hoops here. So stitch the 2 hoops in 2 different shades of blue, and I reckon they could go really well with that Tequila Sunrise silk that I'm using by Water Lilies, or the Karen collection. I'm not quite sure which way it's meant to be pronounced or anything along those lines. But the idea is, like, when we start getting down to this sort of area, or even up sort of near here, for the chart to actually then have one strand of the lighter blue, one strand of the darker blue, and could work out okay. We'll have to wait and see. Plans can very easily change. We'll have to wait and see. So even though I've been using Pattern Keeper for that particular chart, I haven't noted down how much stitching I've done just yet on it, but it's just, we'll get there. It'll be all good. So the next project that I have to share with you is a Dimensions kit, and this particular one is connected to the Geelong Cats. And so this Dimensions kit is called Barnyard Kittens, or Barnyard Cats. And yeah, definitely Barnyard Kittens, sorry. So I'm using all of the called for colours, the fabric and everything with this particular project. And this is where I'm at so far. And I do remember talking a little bit about this last time, with this fabric being quite stiff and it being a bit like a wobble board almost. So it just makes life a bit interesting. So I've just recently focused mostly just down around near here, and with this particular chart, it is a combination of half stitch, also known as tent stitch. It's full crosses. It's got a mixture of threads, in the sense that for, I think, all of the full crosses it's 2 strands. For the half stitch, it varies a little bit to give that texture. So there'll be some half stitches using 4 strands, some using 1, some using 2, some using 3. It's a bit of a variety, so it'll get there. It'll be alright. I've used Dimensions before, so I have an idea of what I'm in for. So the next project is Fight Like a Girl, and this is what it's going to look like when it's done. So this particular project has gotten bucket loads of love as well. So this has been designed by Tanya Amity, and it's designed by Elena Zhnedkova. And this particular project is connected to quite a few teams. It is connected to the Melbourne Demons, the Carlton Blues. Carlton, I keep forgetting that name. Or the team name, sorry. So Carlton Blues and the Brisbane Lions. So I think the Brisbane Lions are potentially going to win their game. They're due to play today. So I'll probably be putting a bit more stitching in after this episode. So this is what it's looking like right now, and it's coming along quite well. So the Melbourne Demons have had a bit of a hiccup in their journey. So let's see, Fight Like a Girl got 85 stitches this weekend, and it's potentially going to get some more stitches in it. Last weekend, Fight Like a Girl got 2 lots of love. It got 90 stitches in it from one of the games, and then it got 110 from another game because of those particular teams winning. And yeah, it's coming along quite nicely, I must say. I do like it. The interesting with this particular project is that it does have a mixture of 10th stitch and full cross, and what I'm excited about with this particular project is that it is finally in Pattern Keeper. The challenge with this particular project has been that the way that I've been trying to import the pattern to Pattern Keeper, because some of the pages do have the lines on them in terms of the back stitching that needs to get done, but everything's worked out. I've still got the physical copies, so I'm able to take a closer look at the back stitch when I need to, so it's all going to be okay. And the next project that I have to share with you, I've potentially talked about in one of my earlier episodes, and that's right, I think it was when I'd last filmed this episode, I had talked about the Water Tiger. And Tess, I hope you've been able to get the physical copy or the digital copy of Water Tiger 2, because I know it's one that you've been absolutely loving. So this is Water Tiger 2, and this particular project is connected to the Richmond Tigers. And the interesting thing with this project is I had set it aside for a while, and I'm stitching this for my best mate who has a birthday next year in October, and it's a project that is definitely full coverage, and it is, I'm being old school with this one, it is paper based because of when I started stitching it, I hadn't known about Pattern Keeper at the time. And it's also important to note that I'm not being sponsored or anything along those lines by Pattern Keeper. I just love the app, if you haven't noticed. So this is where I think this is 18 count fabric. It feels like it could be an even weave. It's a really nice fabric. I'd gotten it I'd purchased it to be part of my collection many moons ago, but it's all doing well. So what did I do? How many? That's right, this was one of the special games. That's right, I'm sorry for being loud for a moment there. So I think if I hadn't already talked about this sort of thing, I may not have. I think I might have jinxed. The special prediction thing that you can do sometimes. Anyway, I think in one of my episodes I talked about it being quite rare for AFL games to be level score at the end or even. I know that in soccer, for example, it's quite common to have games finish where it's 0-0 or it's 1-1, 2-1, whatever the number is. But in AFL, it actually happened where the two teams, it was Fremantle and the Tigers, they both got a final score of 52 points. And that's something that doesn't happen very often in AFL games. And they don't do overtime, they don't do penalty shots or anything like that. When the final siren goes into the game, that's it. Whatever score you get, that's it. The The only times when the score will change once the final siren is gone is when a player has already got the ball and the untie the tongue, restart. So the player has gotten the ball before the final clock and siren has gone off, and they're allowed to kick for goal. And sometimes when they kick for goal, the siren goes off when the ball is midair or thereabouts. Those sorts of things is when it happens. So thank you for bearing with me for my waffle and trying to get my thoughts together. So yeah, that was just one of those really weird things that has happened in AFL for this season. 52 points even. It was a draw. Who would have thunk it? I really had not been expecting that. So this is where I feel like I need to do a special kind of drum roll or something like that, because I have reached just over 50% for Dewdrop Daisy. So this is Dewdrop Daisy. Again, it's a hot cross stitching design. It's available on the Hot Cross Stitching website. It is fully Pattern Keeper compatible, and I'm stitching this using DMC threads, and I'm stitching 2 threads over 2 fabric squares. So my apologies for some of the dangling threads. Here we are. This is what 51% of stitching looks like for this project. So I've been focusing a lot of my attention over here where we see the green. It is looking so good, and this is as far, like where we see the green, this is as far wide this project is going to be, and I've reached the halfway mark of this. So this particular project has just over 60,000 stitches in it, which to some extent can sound like a lot if you don't do full coverage that much or at all. But this is like a drop in the ocean in terms of how many total stitches you can do on a project when we're talking about Hades, for example, or any of the other full coverage projects that are available, like Tilton Crafts or Pain-Free Crafts, or something very similar to those wordings. So with Dewdrop Daisy, this weekend so far, I have put 112. I know I've worked a little bit on Dewdrop, but I think with Dewdrop I've put stitches into it because of my other goal with it for stitching 22,000 stitches in the year 2022 for this year. So I'm probably a bit over 11,000 stitches away from getting that done. But Fremantle lost their game this weekend, or they're potentially due to play. I can't quite remember. That said, 52 points was put into that project as a bare minimum last weekend. So it's coming on quite nicely. And I'm just looking around and I think I've got all of that done. I don't have any more projects to share with you just yet. Just before I do... So I'm just checking the time. I have set a new personal best and record for this channel. I've been able to get through all of that in just over half an hour. I think that's pretty cool. So it's had minimal rambling. I've stuck to the point of my stitching and all the rest. So I think we're doing okay. I do have another episode that is going to be coming out next weekend. It's going to be talking about some of the haul and that kind of thing that I've picked up over the last month or so, and I've just kept forgetting to share that haul with everyone. And I think on the day of recording, I had actually been to the shops that day and picked up some more crafty related things, and I think there's potentially one extra surprise in in that particular episode, where it's not quite crafty related, but something that I thought was pretty cool anyway. So just before I do sign off, head off and all the rest, I do want to do a shout out to one of my viewers called Rebecca Journey. Thank you so much for all of your wonderful, kind comments recently, with your comments on some of my recent episodes and everything especially, but even with some of the other episodes you've commented on. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate what you've said, and I really do appreciate you, and I also want to say that I appreciate everyone who is watching this channel as well, and thank you very, very much. So I will sign off, and I will undoubtedly see all of you next weekend as part of one of the episodes that are pre-recorded, and for a regular update for my stitching. I will see you in hopefully about 2 weeks. Things will settle down quite a lot in life, so I'll have a bit more time. So thank you all so much, and happy stitching.